A very good evening to you and welcome to RTV News with me, Fiona Mbabazi. Now, parliamentarians are going to spend a week visiting local residents across the country, checking on different developmental projects meant to improve social welfare and other aspects of the development. The parliamentarians will be particularly eager to check how the education sector is doing. We do have the details with Serge Nore.
During a press conference on Monday, the Speaker of Parliament noted on the importance of such visits.
By
visiting such local development projects meant to improve social welfare, speaking to local leaders, different stakeholders and the local residents themselves, we get a clear picture of how different government projects are being implemented. Problems found are then discussed with the concerned authorities as part of our responsibilities to do with government oversight and holding leaders accountable. Such problems are usually addressed, and even when they are not, we do follow up. When a minister says they are going to do something, then we must check that it was done. The same follow-up is done at the local level when local leaders are involved. During the visits, we also look into past issues that were noted and check that they have been properly addressed, and we ask them about it. Even when it comes to the resolutions we give the government and they are implemented, we again turn to the standing committees to assess how they were implemented. Anything we request to be done, we make sure it is done. The visits will take place between the 2nd and 8th of this month of November and come as the country fights to recover from the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic. One thing the parliamentarians are particularly interested in is the education sector. The matter of overcrowding in classrooms is something parliamentarians have noted on their different visits, and we must assess whether or not the journeys students make to and from their schools have reduced. After it was noted that this too was a problem. We must also check on sanitary facilities at schools to see that everything is in order. There is also the matter of social distancing. If students are able to respect this when they are assisted in their classrooms, as well as if the budget to implement this was used as it was supposed to. We must also assess if the classrooms that were supposed to be built have been completed, and if not, how many remain and when they will be available, because they will address all of those issues we will be looking into. The construction of the 22,000 classrooms has continued across the country, and depending on where you go, the structures are at various stages of completion, which has been recommended by local residents. The parliamentarians are also to visit stalled projects as cited in the latest Auditor General's report, assess how the agricultural sector season is progressing with issues of the late delivery of fertilizers discussed, things like the construction of health centers in areas along the country's borders, telecommunication infrastructure, the sensitization of local residents to save their money, and more.
Now, some farmers who participated in the land consolidation program have said that it has sometimes been difficult for them to get a balanced diet. However, many are calling on others to understand the benefits of the program and pointed out that the use of the cultivated land can help them produce other types of food necessarily for them to grow and have a better balanced diet. Now, officials in the Ministry of Agriculture and Animal Resources, meanwhile, have given assurance that there are no food scarcity or problems in the country.
Joseph Bizimana is a 60-year-old man living in Rwanda district, Kahenjeri sector. He associates agricultural work with animal husbandry for livelihood. Land consolidation, Bizimana says, it is a program they have become accustomed to. So now that you've harvested maize, can you miss out on meat? Then you buy beans or even soybeans. We sell maize to buy other things we don't have. The way Bizimana's family changes meals every day, despite the fact that they don't plant whatever they eat, is opposed to his neighbor, Manderorate Honest. For example, I have cows. Currently, no one has beans or banana, so the person with cows can sell milk and buy food to feed their children. Getting milk is very hard. When you have 10 eggs, it is 1,000 Rwandan francs, but kids can't eat eggs alone. Managing crop yields in a land consolidated manner seems to be a strong task for some, but some know the value of substituting food and animal products. Even if you're selling milk, you have to get one day in a week to give the milk to your children, since they're the ones feeding the cows. Plus, you also need to live. I can't sell all the milk, yet kids need it. Cattle farming costs a lot, because kids have to feed the cows. When my cow gives birth to a bull, I wait for it to grow so I can sell it and get money. Statistics show that 38% of children under the age of 5 have malnutrition. This has to do with how their parents prepare meals. Kamanzi Private, a nutritionist at Amazon Nutrition Clinic, says low resources are not the key to improper food preparation. I don't think low income is the problem. It depends on not knowing how to take care of the family. Let's say a man can take money and buy a bottle of alcohol for 300 Rwanda francs, but that money is somewhere a liter of milk that costs 150 Rwanda francs. Or you can find that the cow he owns can be sold to buy beer. It is mostly due to a lack of knowledge. Because today we have a problem of stunted growth among children under the age of 5. And you find where the problem is, the land is more productive and there is a lot of milk. That's why we link the problem to lack of knowledge. The Minister of Agriculture and Animal Resources, Dr. Geraldine Mucheshimana, says about 10 plants have been selected for the land consolidation program, but also other indigenous crops that are allowed to be cultivated in non-aligned farms. She says there is no food problem in the country.
Every time a child gets an egg 2 or 3 times, it is enough to get a good diet. There are times when we have found that a man and a woman have more weight, but they tell us it's out of good diet, which shows us that the family is not poor, but they don't understand nutrition. This is why programs to educate people and figure out how to feed properly needs to be continued. For example, those women who sell sardines in Congo are the ones who have children with problems, which is incomprehensible because that is something you can trade, but also get family sustenance.
According to the Rwanda Agriculture Board RAB, 795,489 hectares of land will be consolidated in the 2021 A crop season, and 8 selected crops including maize, beans, potatoes, cassava, rice, wheat, soybeans and vegetables will be planted. And now, after 8 months of schools being closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic, on this Monday, classes resumed, and there were long lines of students getting their temperatures checked and washing their hands. Martina Avera has more on this.
Since March 14th in Rwanda, when the first coronavirus case was discovered, it was just a week after, on Sunday, March 21st, when schools immediately closed and students had to return home in order to curb down the spread of the coronavirus. It's been 8 months of the students being home. However, different school levels have been opening for the past few days, so when the announcement was out, the first students to go to school were university students. Primary 4, 5, 6 and high school students in the 3rd, 5th and 6th grades began classes this Monday. In the morning, the start of classes were marked by long lines at the entrance to the school grounds due to students' temperatures being checked as well as them having to wash their hands. This led to some of the schools having their classes to start later on in the day.
The challenge is that someone will be late for school. However, we have already come to terms with this whole process and we hope that someone will be coming, get their temperature checked, then immediately go to class. We are very excited to return to school, where we found the school equipped with different coronavirus preventive tools. When I reached the school gate, they tested me to see if I contracted the virus or not. When I entered, I washed my hands, then continued on my way.
We reach school, then we wash our hands, get our temperatures checked, then we are asked to put 1 meter distance between ourselves, then we enter class. We each sit on our own benches. In the dining hall, when we are going to eat, there are indications showing where to sit and where not to sit, in order for a table to not consist of more than 6 people. Some parents, including those who accompany their children, say they were happy with the resumption of classes. However, some schools have increased tuition fees, especially in private schools.
It has not increased, except where we have children in private schools who say that we've put a lot of effort in strengthening COVID-19 prevention strategies, so parents should play a role in helping us to get that money.
I gave her hand sanitizer, and the schools have places where students can wash their hands, so they really need to abide by the measures that have been set, like the way they abided by them back at home. They will also have to do the same with the rules that they will be given at school. The beginning of the academic year began with students having to wear their face masks, each individual sitting on their own chair, students not being allowed to go for sports activities, and if a student needs to go to the washroom, they need to be escorted by a teacher. Teachers and school administrators say it has taken a lot of effort to give preventive measures and guidelines. They also pointed out that in terms of tuition fees, no school is allowed to increase or decrease.
When they go to school, they immediately went to the morning assembly, but today we didn't do anything. Everyone would come and go straight to the class. The teachers were guiding them and telling them that each class consists of 23 students. Another thing is that normally when students would come to school in the morning, they would gather around each other as they take turns to tell stories. You can see that we prohibited that, and we all know how hard it is to tell students not to gather in huge crowds to talk to each other and to convince the children that their vacation is happening in school with their teachers. The students who are in primary came to school when they were in many number, as opposed to those in secondary. In primary, those in attendance were 79%, while in secondary school, they were 55%. So we started calling parents to let them know that school has started and for them to send their children.
At the moment, students in a class should not exceed 23, and the list of students in each prospective class is hung at the door. The dining hall shows where students sit and where not to sit on the benches as part of the social distancing measure. Students of other age groups will resume classes on the 22nd of this month in accordance to the level of the pandemic in the country at the time. Martina Abera, RTV News.
Thank you very much, Martina Abera. And still linked to this, we're joined by Juliana Lindsay, UNICEF representative in Rwanda. Juliana, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening.
Yeah, a quick one. Can the reopening of schools affect the children psychologically? And when it comes to learning outcomes, as it has also been in the last 7 months, mostly online?
Reopening schools is a very positive thing for children psychologically. For kids, school is a place of structure. It's a place of normality, not to mention a place where they see their friends and where they learn from their teachers. So reopening schools really helps children have this normality. With respect to the learning outcomes, obviously you need to be to the greatest extent in school in order to improve learning outcomes. There have been wonderful efforts with radio, with television, with internet, but at the end of the day, there's no substitute for that interaction, for children being able to ask questions and get the instruction from the teacher. And so this will make a big difference in learning outcomes over time.
All right. And regarding the risks, what are the risks related to this, mostly primarily health related, and how can they be tackled?
You know, we live in a new world of COVID, and so there's no doubt that when children go to school, there is some small level of risk of COVID transmission or contraction. We're very lucky in Rwanda that the government has managed to control COVID so well. And so at the current point in time, when we look at the level of COVID in the country, the risk of getting COVID or transmitting COVID in school is relatively low and contained. In contrast to the risk of children not being in school, not getting an education, that has massive impact, not just for the individual child and the child's family, but also for the economy of the country over time, if the population of these kids growing up lose out on their education.
All right. And how can partners, different partners plus the Ministry of Education work together on this?
I really want to congratulate the Ministry of Education and also the Rwanda Education Board for putting in place very solid plans for the reopening. They've put a lot of thought into it, a lot of effort into it. Many organizations, UNICEF included, as well as NGOs, as well as development partners, as well as other UN agencies, have advised the ministry and REB. And what they've put together at the end of the day is very solid. I'll just give you one small example. We're really pleased that for the first few weeks, the teachers are going to be assessing where the children stand in terms of their learning. Have they lost any learning? Do they need to catch up? And based on that analysis, figure out if they need to adjust the curriculum a bit. And that's a very, very good method.
All right. And a last one, Gillian. We're seeing a second wave of COVID-19 worldwide. Should this be a big concern right here in Rwanda?
You know, it's a concern because we all live on the planet together, and our hearts certainly go out to people in other countries who are dealing with this second wave, with this surge. Luckily in Rwanda, the government and the people have done a fantastic job of controlling the virus. And as long as we continue to be vigilant with wearing masks, with washing hands, with social distancing, with testing people coming into the country to make sure that we don't have it coming into the country even more than we did previously, then fingers crossed we should be fine. There's no guarantee, but the measures that have taken place so far have been very, very effective.
Absolutely. Juliana, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, have a good evening.
Now, of course, today on social media, many people put up on the polls, is it President Donald Trump or will we have Joe Biden as the incoming president of the U.S.? Well, to help us deduce this, I'm joined by Mr. Eddie Rwema, who is a journalist in the U.S. Thank you very much for making time to be with us, Eddie.
Thank you so much for having me, Fiona.
Now, just a few hours to go to election day, in the U.S. Please paint us a picture of how the day and the mood is in the U.S.
Thank you very much. Well, I would say that elections here in America started pretty early, around mid-September, but tomorrow, the 3rd, is going to be the culmination of that entire process of voting. And so far, right now, we are likely to see one of the highest voter turnout in America. Close to 95 million Americans have voted early. Some voted through mail-in ballot. So there's so much excitement, and also people just wondering what is pushing all these people to vote.
Absolutely. Of course, that was going to be my next question, because experts are saying this is the first time that's happening in centuries that over at least 94 million residents of the U.S. have voted early. Why do you think people have been so eager? Is it because they've been at home and they have time, or is it because maybe it's a time for a wave and a change that's coming to America?
I think it could be the change that is coming to America, like you said. And the other thing is the pandemic. The pandemic has exposed some weaknesses when it comes to how the current president has conducted himself. Most people think he should have done better to help either control the pandemic. Right now, close to 9 million Americans have been affected by that disease. Close to 235,000 people have died because of coronavirus. So most people think that he was not able to control the virus right at the time when he should have done more to make sure that Americans are safe. And besides that, there are also so many other issues that divide the two sides. That's the Democrats and Republicans. Issues that have to do with jobs, issues that have to do with crime, criminal justice. So most people are so much energized, and this energy is from both sides.
Absolutely. Now, popular votes, of course, show that Joe Biden could actually take this home. But, of course, we know that in 2016, when Hillary Clinton was running against, of course, U.S. President Donald Trump, she lost, especially when the popular votes indicated that she could be winning. What's the scenario right now? Do you think there's really hope for Joe Biden?
Well, according to current polls right now, when you look at the swing states, or the states that are considered here in America as battlefield states. So those are the states that normally leaned to Democrats, but Trump was able to flip in 2016. And the reason probably Trump flipped these states is because people considered him as a no political person. So they wanted change. But this time around, when you look at the polls, most of the 5 major battlefield states right now are all leaning towards Biden. So if Biden is able to probably win 2 or 3 out of those battlefield states, he's going to take the day.
Of course, we also know about the Electoral College, which many people say that it usually goes against the popularity vote. Maybe take us briefly what the Electoral College is all about and how it can swing, this particular popularity vote.
So basically, every single state, given its size and the population, is awarded what they call electoral votes. States like California, for example, they have so many electoral votes. So here, it's not about how many people voted which president. So they don't go by popular vote. So, and that's why right now you see them fighting tooth and nail to go and try to change those battlefields. In places like Nebraska, for example, they only have one single electoral member. So what the two sides are doing right now are going through those states that have enough electoral votes so that they can see how they can sway those people to vote towards them. But again, as you know, America is already divided. There are some states that are red, other states that are blue. So now they're going after those voters in those 5 or 6 battlefield states that could change the elections. And most likely, one thing that I would also mention is that we are likely not to know the president on the election night, which is completely different from other years because of the turnout that is amazing. And most people think that by Tuesday night, we will not be able to know who the winner is.
Absolutely. This is a very new trend for the US that most people are not used to. But when you look at the manifestos then, Eddie, who would you put your money on, especially when it comes to matters of Africa?
I would say when you look at the foreign policy that President Trump has pushed for the past 4 years, we haven't seen so much being done in as far as Africa or the African countries are concerned. We've seen him taking part in the negotiations in as far as the dam in Ethiopia is concerned. But again, we haven't seen him invest too much time, too much resources like we used to see during the Obama time. Obama started what they call the Lighting Africa. He said, this is a time he said that Africa was a giant elephant that is about to burst and as far as the economy is concerned. So probably if he wins his second term, probably he is going to be looking at how America can work closely with Africa. But so far, he hasn't done that much that people can say he's really a friend of Africa. But let's hope in the next time, if he wins it, something is going to change.
Eddie, before I let you go, there's something about the African continent when it comes to elections. People look forward to protests. People look forward, to wars, such corruption and stuff like that. In the US today, we have seen people protesting. We have seen people come up with, putting up safe walls for their businesses. Is this a new trend, or it's something that's always been there that, the African continent has actually not been aware of?
I believe it's a new trend, and also it has to do with the president's rhetoric. When the president of the state says that if he doesn't win, then elections would have been rigged. So that, in a way, is inciting most of his supporters to show them that if I don't win, go to the streets because these elections was rigged. But again, we believe in Americans that at the end of the day, something good is going to come out of this and stop what people say that we might see a wave of violence across the American streets.
Thank you very much, Eddie Rwema, for making time to be with us. And of course, please keep safe. And of course, thank you. And maybe you'll be keeping us up to date on what's happening on ground.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Eddie. We now bring you breaking news. The following officials from the Rwanda Education Board have been suspended from their duties for failure to properly manage and coordinate the ongoing teacher recruitment process. We bring you breaking news that the following officials from the Rwanda Education Board have been suspended from their duties for failure to properly manage and coordinate the ongoing teacher recruitment processes. We do have Dr. Irene Ndayambaje, the Director General of Rwanda Education Board. Dr. Irene Ndayambaje, Director General of the Rwanda Education Board. We have Miss Angelique Tumusime, who is the Deputy Director General of the Rwanda Education Board. Mr. James Ngoga, Head of Teacher Development and Management Department at Rwanda Education Board. Now, all these officials from the Rwanda Education Board have been suspended from their duties to failure to properly manage and coordinate the ongoing teacher recruitment process. Of course, we'll be keeping you updated as the story comes in.
And on behalf of the entire news team that made this happen, thanks very much for keeping us company. My name is Sam Kalisa.
And my name is Fiona Mbabazi. And do remember, of course, to keep safeguarding your own, especially as the coronavirus is still on the wave. And wash your hands with soap and water.
Please wash your face, wear a face mask correctly and socially distance. Whenever in public and together,
we will flatten the curve. Have yourselves a lovely evening, a blessed and fruitful month ahead, and a good week ahead.